And we begin this newscast tonight at 5 with late-breaking news here tonight in connection to the Breonna Taylor case from 5 years ago. Federal Judge Charles Simpson of Louisville has now dismissed one of the most serious felony charges against former LMPD officers Joshua James and Kyle Meany. They had faced a maximum sentence of up to life in prison on one felony charge. The two men were charged with violating Taylor's rights in March of 2020. Prosecutors said they lied in the original search warrant that led officers to her home that evening, resulting in her death.
Taylor was killed when officers on scene returned fire after Taylor's boyfriend fired a shot at them. Now, in his ruling, Judge Sims writes prosecutors cannot attribute Taylor's death to the lack of a warrant because the officers returning fire, well, that was a legal act. James and Meany are still facing lesser charges connected to the case.
It's a career case for detectives. It's the kind of thing that if you're not able to get closure on, it's the kind of thing that could eat at you down the road.
After 12 years, a suspect in a double homicide in Indiana is arrested.
Clarksville, Indiana police saying a Salvadorian man killed his two roommates. ICE had been holding that man down at a facility in Georgia. Now here's where the burning home became a murder investigation scene over a decade ago. It's Randolph Avenue in Clarksville, Indiana. That's near Brown Station Way.
Ian Hardwick reports on how the cold case warmed up.
This was a brutal double murder.
DNA evidence connects Carlos Alberto Bonilla Canínguez to the murder of his two roommates on October 9th, 2013, according to Clarksville Police Chief Nathan Walls.
Well, DNA is important because it was a match for the murder weapon, and it was also a match under fingernails of the victim, so that would help lead to a struggle.
A detective from the department went down to Georgia, collecting the DNA sample from Bonilla Canínguez at an Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility better known as ICE. He was bound for deportation to El Salvador, but will now be extradited to Indiana, facing two murder charges. But 12 years ago, police say Bonilla Canínguez lived here on Randolph Avenue. Clarksville Fire Department believed the fire was intentionally set in the kitchen where the three men lived. But Bonilla Canínguez currently faces just 2 counts of murder. One roommate, police said, was stabbed over 100 times.
ICE did not respond to our emailed questions about Bonilla Canínguez. We asked if he was specifically targeted and what his current immigration status is.
This break in the cold case, thanks to the call from ICE, reassured Kelly Berry's decision to buy the house across the street from the 2013 double murder.
So if anything, I feel better about the neighborhood and already felt pretty good about it.
In Clarksville, Ian Hardwick, WHAS11 on your side.
By the way, in 2022, a study looked at Texas crime data from 2012 to 2018, and it was funded by the Department of Justice's research agency.
It found that undocumented immigrants are arrested at less than half the rate of native-born U.S. citizens for violent crimes and drug crimes.
Well, 11 people have been arrested Monday in Jackson County, Indiana, during a coordinated immigration enforcement operation. Seymour, Indiana police and the Jackson County Sheriff's Office worked with the FBI and ICE in these arrests. Authorities say those taken into custody had either illegally entered the United States or had previously been charged with crimes. One person, they said, had been deported 5 times but was back in the U.S. Seymour, Indiana Police Chief Greg O'Brien saying in a statement, quote, "This was not a sweep, nor did it involve schools or other sensitive locations. The focus was solely on removing dangerous offenders to protect the safety of our residents."
All right, well, we had some showers come down last night. We were just talking about it. Mallory, that helped bring the temperatures way down.
Sure did, and all those clouds today really kept things down. There was thick cloud cover, Mallory, and are we going to see any sunshine here this week?
We will have more peaks of sunshine. I think we'll have a few peaks tomorrow, more sun by Friday and Saturday. But yes, this cloud cover really keeping temperatures even cooler than expected. So obviously we were expecting a drop in temperatures with highs in the 80s today behind yesterday's cold front. But this cloud cover that we're seeing from our Bachman Auto Group U of L health camera, keeping temperatures primarily in the mid to upper 70s right now. That does include in Louisville, where we're sitting at 79 degrees at the airport, 76 in E-Town, 78 degrees in Bardstown. It's just difficult for us to warm up. up when you have thick cloud cover and a northerly breeze. So in comparison to this time yesterday, many of us running 10 to 15 degrees cooler. And of course, you can certainly feel it. Any kind of shower or storms today, far off to our south and southeast. So you're just tracking the cloud cover on the satellite. Bit more sunshine in our south central Kentucky counties, south of the parkways. Through this evening, expect temperatures primarily in the 70s, maybe some lower 80s to the south. Overnight lows will be dropping down into the 60s area wide under partly cloudy skies. And we are expecting partly to mostly cloudy conditions again tomorrow. And that's going to keep us cooler. Expect highs tomorrow in the upper 70s to the low to mid 80s. Now we are tracking a second front on the way this weekend. We'll talk much more about the impacts from that coming up in our 7-day forecast.
Thank you, Mallory. Today, Representative Morgan McGarvey joined a national anti-violence group in Louisville to discuss ideas he can bring back to Congress. Giffords is a nonprofit led by former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, whose life was changed when she was shot in 2011.
Representative McGarvey is on the task force of lawmakers working to create laws that help prevent gun violence. Today, they held a panel leading the charge for universal background checks and a federal ban on assault rifles. Emma Brown runs the Giffords nonprofit, and she said this is a unique problem because we have the solution. It's just getting lawmakers on the same page.
We know that there is still a lot more to do. And on top of that, there's a lot that Kentucky can do at the state level to keep people safe. Things as simple as making sure there are laws to require somebody to store their guns safely, right? Making sure that there are laws to prevent somebody who is in a moment of crisis from being able to operationalize a shooting.
Brown said data proves red flag laws and group violence intervention, which is something Louisville is doing right now, work to decrease shootings. Well, in Louisville, there's been a push by LMPD to get parents more engaged with their children to help prevent violence. It sounds simple, but it works.
And recently, we've seen big community meetings focusing on this. Part of that is when knowing when your child or teenager is in distress. Mandy Gaither tonight is looking at the not so obvious warning signs when something might be wrong in students and how parents can help.
It isn't always easy getting out of the door for school, and while experts say it's normal for a student to not want to head to class every now and again, when it becomes a pattern, there may be a problem.
Maybe it's that they're not fitting in at school, they're experiencing bullying or just nervous about socializing. It may be a sign of a mental health concern like anxiety or depression. It may also be that they have a learning disability that hasn't been diagnosed yet.
Pediatric psychologist Ariana Howitt with Nationwide Children's Hospital says emotional distress may not look the same in children as it does adults. Warning signs may include behavior changes, tantrums, irritability, and anger. There may also be physical symptoms like stomach aches, headaches, and nausea, which could also signal a mental health concern like anxiety.
As parents, we want to often shield our kids from those difficult emotions. What happens though is if we let a child avoid, stay home from school, it actually makes the anxiety grow.
Instead, Howitt encourages parents to sit down with the child and get to the root of the problem. Validate what they're feeling, let them know you understand, then work together to problem solve.
If a child is feeling nervous about, let's say, socializing with others, then we practice those social skills at home. We practice them out in different environments so that when they do them at school, they feel more confident.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Now, Howitt says the more experience a child has with something that's scary, the easier it becomes to manage that worry.
And she says it's all about maintaining a healthy balance by allowing children to feel their emotions, but also arming them with coping skills.
Competitive pay and guaranteed time off to start a family. The town of Clarksville, Indiana, and the union representing its police officers officially came to an agreement on a new contract. These negotiations have been ongoing since February of 2024, and Clarksville police have been operating without a contract since January. Clarksville police are keeping their commitment on the community safety, but Derek Crawford with the police union says they've been working without a contract for months now.
But our job is continually getting harder and more dangerous each and every day. And for the smallest paycheck out there, most people don't want to risk their lives.
The town council will officially vote on this contract September 2nd.
And they are tossing the milk at JCPS. All fresh milk cartons, all fresh milk removed from JCPS school cafeterias today. The school district says that they identified an issue with the fresh milk supply while doing their daily quality checks this morning. And in a new update, a letter sent out today, JCPS, some students at schools drank milk and said it, quote, tasted funny, and a handful of cafeteria managers agreed with that. All milk was removed from the school's cafeterias as a precaution. Their milk vendor will be picking up a replacement. And while they wait, cups of water and juice will be available for all students. JCPS has notified the health department to ensure that they are following proper food safety procedures.